Welcome to Central Georgia Focus. I'm your host, Fredrick Price. There's no doubt you've noticed it. Drearier, cooler days coupled with earlier sunsets, taking away those long sunny days of summer that so many people dream about. How do the cloudy days and early evenings impact your mood? For some people, it can become more than just a gloomy day. It can become a more serious emotional experience brought on by what is called Seasonal Affective Disorder, or SAD for short. So today we take some time to learn more about human nature by examining seasonal affective disorder. Our guest today, Dr. Robyn Cotney, who is a psychiatrist with Piedmont-Macon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I guess I can start with, how is your mental health? I mean, today is kind of gloomy, and in the winter months, we do tend to see a lot more gloomy days.
We do. I think my mental health is doing pretty good, but that's because I try to use those coping skills that we always talk about, and I know how to reach out for help when I need to.
Well, let's get into it. Tell me a little bit more about seasonal affective disorder. What is it and how does it affect people?
So seasonal affective disorder is a subset of depression, and it's kind of in the name as to what happens with it. It happens during certain seasons. The more common type is a winter seasonal affective disorder. When the days get shorter, the hours of light that we see outside get shorter, our moods tend to drop a bit, and people experience the symptoms of depression. So they begin to feel like they want to sleep more, they want to eat more, they don't want to get out of bed or enjoy the things that they want to enjoy. But it becomes a bit more serious when those things start to affect how they function, and sometimes they even become suicidal. And that's when we get into what we call seasonal affective disorder. But the good thing about it, it only happens during the fall to winter season if you have the winter pattern.
Mm-hmm. And you and I were talking, I mean, there's a lot less study done about the summer pattern, but it does exist, which I thought was very interesting because, as I alluded to, I'm the kind of person that enjoys, the winter months and the gloomy weather, but I absolutely abhor the summer months. I think it's really interesting that, it's seasonal affective disorder, obviously. What are some of the symptoms that people should be looking out for, though?
Typically, they're the ones that you'll see with typical depression. So like I said, they're going to be sleeping a bit more. They'll lose interest in the things that they used to enjoy. For example, in this area, a lot of people typically enjoy going out and doing things outdoors. They will tend to shy away from that. They don't reach out to their friends. You don't see them going to social events. They start to feel kind of empty inside. They overeat. They tend to be a bit more irritable and moody, snap at things that they wouldn't snap at. And sometimes they become so in their head that they start thinking, why is the world the way it is? Why are we here? And that's when it starts to get dangerous.
In your experience, have you found that some people kind of dismiss a gloomy day as seasonal affective disorder?
Absolutely. So there's a version of depression called winter blues, and everybody can experience that from time to time. It's when you're having this day after day and it starts to affect your functioning that it starts to become seasonal affective disorder.
And let's talk about the age range. I mean, can a child have it, or is this something that is most commonly seen in adults?
It is more commonly seen in adults, but that's because there's not typically seen in children. The studies, our parents are typically pretty good about getting us outdoors. But it can affect anybody at any age, adults, elderly, anyone.
Let's talk about the emotional impact, because I imagine that there are severe cases, if a person does not seek help. What does that look like? What is the emotional impact of this? How serious can it get?
It can be incredibly serious. There are many deaths reported each year due to seasonal affective disorder.
Wow.
And it doesn't affect just the person, it affects everybody around them. They begin to be upset that the person's withdrawing, not understanding. But honestly, the best thing that anyone can do is either to reach out for help, or if you see somebody who you think is struggling, asking them what they can do for you, or helping them reach out for help is the best.
What about the holidays? In your experience, have you seen that the holidays is a time where, people are obviously stressed, but then you think about the gloomy weather. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. The holidays are always a stressful time. Families can always have fun relationships, and to add on to that, when you may already be feeling down and gloomy, or the weather outside's not always the greatest, everything can be combined together to be that perfect storm to lead towards these symptoms. Okay,
and so what are, again, if you could reiterate some helpful tips that people could do that are perhaps going through this to make themselves feel better? Obviously the first step, if you do feel like this, perhaps go seek help.
Absolutely. So there are many treatments for it. The first step is always to ask for help. And that can be something that is very hard to do. So I would encourage anybody, if you're feeling like you might have these symptoms, try reaching out to even your primary care provider. They would be able to help you. But there are different treatments that can help. So talk therapy is a really great one. Medication sometimes, if your symptoms are a bit more severe. There's something called a light box where they simulate UV light that you can do early in the morning just to give yourself a little boost of energy in the mornings. But really just reaching out for help. If you feel that your symptoms are severe, go to the ED immediately. It's not a shame to have a mental illness. It's just the same as a physical illness.
Could one's personal life impact this in any way, and if so, how?
Absolutely. Stress at work, stress from the holidays, everything can build up on a person and just kind of make you feel more run down, more irritable. You're getting less sleep. You kind of become overwhelmed, and that overwhelming feeling can just combine with the weather, kind of the neurochemicals in your brain start to become imbalanced, and everything just goes downhill.
Let's talk about personality. A certain type of personality, is it impacted by seasonal affective disorder, or is it just something that we all can get?
It is something that we all can get. We do tend to see it more in families that have a history of depression. It does tend to run in families, but it's something that anyone can get at any time.
Okay, and we talked about people often dismissing it, of sad. They think it's just a gloomy day. What are some warning signs that we really, really should be looking out for?
Social withdrawal is a really big one. If they are not going to things that they would typically enjoy, if they're staying in bed a lot more often, if they're overeating, or if they're a lot more irritable than they would be in situations that normally don't call for that irritability. Also, obviously, if they start talking about not wanting to be alive, not wanting to be in the world, those are definite signs that they need to go and seek help.
And so, because when you talk about, people that have suicidal ideation, and then you couple that with sad, how does one approach that? Because that's such an uncomfortable conversation. You want your friend, your family member, your loved one to be okay, but at the same time, you don't necessarily want to seem like you're so overbearing, too.
If you're just approaching it from the lens of, I want to make sure that you're safe, I love you, and I want to make sure that you are doing the best that you can be as best as I can help you, they tend to be a lot more open to it. And it is hard, but you ultimately want to have the priority be their safety first.
Yes, safety is paramount. It's a very interesting topic about SAD. We're going to continue our conversation. We're, of course, going to take a break. When we return, we'll talk more about recognizing the symptoms of SAD and the important treatment available to help people enjoy their lives. Welcome back to Central Georgia Focus. We continue our conversation with Dr. Robyn Cotney, a psychiatrist at Piedmont-Macon Medical Center. We're talking about SAD, or seasonal affective disorder. Piedmont really works a lot with people that are experiencing, symptoms of SAD. Exactly what does Piedmont do if someone comes in and they say, I'm not feeling the best and I've, been feeling like this for an extended period of time? What do you all do?
There's a lot of different options that we can offer to people. It kind of depends on the severity of symptoms and also what a person's schedule is. We don't always want to take them out of their day-to-day life if we have the option not to, so it depends on severity of symptoms. If a person has been feeling suicidal or hasn't really been functioning in their life, we offer an inpatient program to patients where they come into our inpatient psychiatric unit. We see them for a couple of days, offer medications, offer different therapies and different coping skills to help them with their symptoms, and then try to set up follow-up for them for when they leave the hospital after that. If their symptoms are a bit less than that, we have what we call a PHP or an IOP program, and what that stands for is a partial hospitalization program or an intensive outpatient program. And those are where they come in the mornings, Monday through Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the case of IOP, and they come in, see a psychiatrist, start medications, and also go to those therapies that we talked about more, but they're still able to go to work, see their families every day.
And getting that help certainly can change the way for a lot of people, but with the inpatient program, how successful is that program for people that go through it to get the help that they need?
We've heard that it's been very successful. We rarely have patients that come back with these symptoms. We get notes a couple of months later saying that you guys truly changed our lives. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was until you guys helped me and showed me who I could be with the medications and with the therapy. So I would say it really does make a difference in patients' lives to get the help that they need, even if they didn't realize it.
And so let's talk about some of the personal experiences that you've seen as a medical professional. What do you see day in and day out?
We see some really sad cases. I have had patients, the elderly, who have been fine their entire lives, they say, but they come in, they've started realizing, what do I have left to offer the world? I don't want to go out fishing like I normally do. I don't want to see my family. And they come in and they're talking about all these symptoms, and they've never been on medication before. They've never talked to anyone. They try to hold it all in and be that strong leader for their family. But when they start the medications, when they start to open up, even to people who are a lot younger than they are, they tend to blossom and they say, wow, I didn't realize how much I was holding in, how much I was feeling until I was able to talk with you about it and see what my brain is capable of on the medications.
I mean, and for you as a medical professional, but aside from that, more importantly, a human being, when you hear stories like this, what emotions do you experience?
All of them at once. There are times where I will cry with my patients. Like, you hear some of the worst stories sometimes, but you also get to hear like the things that they love, that they look forward to, the hope that they bring with them of getting better, of being able to return to the things that they love. You feel that joy for them as well, and you want to keep encouraging them to reach out for it. So it's everything all at once, but it's an amazing feeling as well.
And it also seems like the medical professionals really, I mean, clearly on the medicinal side of things, they are making a difference, but also they make people just feel really, really good too, aside from the treatment and things like that. Talk about how you as a medical professional, as a human being, working with this person, hearing their stories, are making a world of a difference for these people.
You'd be surprised at the power of just listening and offering empathy to a person can do. So many people feel that they're brushed aside, or that people aren't quite paying attention to them, or that they're overlooked, that people just kind of talk over them. So having someone just listen to everything that they've been going through, letting them get that all out, it's a catharsis in a way to just be able to release that, and that's an incredible power to have.
What have doctors come to understand about SAD? Because this has been years, decades even, of research.
Absolutely. So no one's that knows for sure. There's a couple of different hypotheses, and there's things that we do see when people go through testing. So we do know that it can be from a neurochemical imbalance in the brain. We typically see lower levels of serotonin, which has been implicated in all forms of depression. And we see higher forms of melatonin, which is the hormone that regulates our circadian rhythm. And that's the hormone that makes you sleep a bit more, makes you want to eat more, kind of hibernate in a way during the winter. And that's what we think is really important for SAD, is that higher level of melatonin and also a lower level of vitamin D. So taking some extra vitamin D wouldn't always hurt.
Yeah, some things to always consider. I mean, in the wintertime is the most prominent one, but we had talked about this in our last break, that it happens in the summer too. A little less known, but can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So we still see that neurochemical imbalance. It's not as well known why, because we do typically see the outdoors. But like you and I talked about, sometimes people don't want to go outside in that hot blazing sun, so they're also not getting as much sunlight. They have less serotonin in their body. They might be vitamin D deficient. So same thoughts as to what's happening, just in a different way, and that the sunlight is still there, we just don't go for it.
And I don't know why I always felt weird, that I was that one person that did not enjoy summer, but it's nice to know that it is, a legitimate thing. It's not just something that I'm making up.
Absolutely. No, everybody is special and individual in their own way, and that includes the symptoms that they feel too.
Yeah, and I always feel those symptoms during the summer, but I'm able to pull myself out of it because I know winter's coming soon. How important is life perspective? When we talk about how you see your world and, in a positive view, personally, how important is it for people to have that optimistic view?
It is rather important. We always want to see someone who is goal-oriented or future-oriented, who has that little spring of hope to hold on to. And that's what we always work towards for in therapy, even if it's the smallest little thing of, I'm going to read 100 books next year, I'm going to go volunteer in a park or pet a dog. Those are little things that we can hold on to, and those make all the difference in treatment.
So how do you help someone who doesn't necessarily, see that positive side of things? They're really, really negative. How do you help them get to that point of optimism and having a positive view on their life?
Even if there's the smallest little flame of hope, a little bit of joy that they've had in the past, you hold on to that and you keep trying to make that into a fire. So no matter what, there's something that someone has enjoyed in the past, and even if they are struggling right now, there is something that they can work towards too. Whether that's recovery, whether that's reconnecting with family, or just being able to do something that they enjoyed again, you find that and then you help them move towards it.
Okay, which, for me, it's always just the approach, and it's something that we talked about too. You don't always want to seem overbearing, but at the same time, your family member just isn't the same, and it seems like approach is a big key to making sure that that person gets the help that they need too, I imagine.
Absolutely. So a lot of the time you want to try to let them come to you, but when you start to see things different, trying to go to them and just saying, hey, I'm here. Is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there any way that I can help you? Whether that's by going to a dinner, just getting them out of a situation, offering that listening ear can be the biggest difference in the world for that person.
And how can people, get in touch with the medical professionals at Piedmont Macon if they don't, want to go to the ED, if they feel as though their symptoms are not necessarily that severe?
There's a number that you'll be able to find online called Lifeline. It's for our behavioral health assessment team. They're able to offer different resources in the community, whether that be therapies, inpatient providers, outpatient providers, give information for our PHP and our IOP programs. They're able to offer a listening ear and also help guide you toward those resources that can really help you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Cotney. We're going to continue our conversation. When we return, we'll tell you how to find those resources that she just alluded to help understand SAD. We're back in a moment. Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Cotney with Piedmont-Macon. She's a psychiatrist there. Again, thank you so much for being here with us. When we talk about SAD, seasonal affective disorder, there are also other forms of depression too. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So they all kind of have the same type of symptoms where you're sleeping a bit more, you're losing interest, sometimes feeling guilty, low energy, bad concentration. What the difference between each of them is typically the time frame that they exist in. Major depressive disorder is the overarching subtype. That can happen if you have those symptoms for 2 weeks or more and they're interfering with your life. That can be diagnosed as depression. Seasonal affective disorder happens if you are experiencing only during the certain seasons, so fall to winter, spring to summer. They relapse and remit during those seasons only, and that's kind of a trend that we would see. There's another subtype of depression where it's associated with bipolar disorder. You experience some symptoms of mania where you have all this energy in the world, you're up all time, you kind of feel on top of the world, but you also have some symptoms of depression as well. You go back and forth between those symptoms. So it all kind of depends on the timeline of the symptoms that you're having.
And of course, the best rectification would be to seek, help
Absolutely.
from a medical professional. I think I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's seasonal affective disorder and there's seasonal affective depression. Is that, or is it just seasonal?
Same thing.
It's the same thing? Okay, I wondered about that. So let's recap. What are some of the warning signs that people really need to look for, whether it's within themselves or for their loved one or friend?
You're sleeping a lot more than you used to. You're a bit more irritable at things that normally wouldn't bother you in the past. You're eating a lot more, is something that we see that's typically different in seasonal affective disorder than normal forms of depression. Social withdrawal is a big one that you can notice, but also your friends typically notice. You're not going out to do things that you enjoy. And then also those kind of dark, gloomy feelings that come in.
Okay, and as it relates to suicide, what should people keep in mind, with their family and friends too?
There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Everybody needs a helping hand sometimes, and the best thing that you can do is let others help you sometimes, or try to help yourself. Sometimes that's really hard. So just reaching out, asking for help is a really good thing to do.
And I think we may have touched on this, but the difference between SAD in the winter versus the summer. Can you talk to us again about that, if we missed that?
Yes. So SAD in the winter, we typically see more of what we call this gloomy hibernation symptoms. You're eating a lot more, you're sleeping a lot more, you're a lot more grumpy and irritable. And the symptoms start typically in the fall when the days become shorter, the light outside is less, and it gets really worse in the winter. And then once springtime comes back around, those symptoms go away. On the other hand, when you have it in the summer, sometimes you'll still sleep a bit more, but you don't really see those eating symptoms. You might still be a bit irritable, but the thing is those symptoms come on when the spring starts, get worse in the summer, and then tend to go away as those days become shorter. It's kind of the opposite.
Okay, and again, positive outlook. Let's reiterate the importance of that. You have a lot going on, whether it's, stress at work, stress for the holidays, a lot going on with friends, whatever it may be personally. But it is utmost important to have a positive, optimistic outlook, which for some people is really hard to achieve.
Absolutely. If you can find just that one little spark of joy in your life, that one thing that keeps you going, whether that be a family member, your pet, seeing a flower outside or seeing the trees change, hold on to that one little spark of joy in your life and let it grow.
What about for you? What's usually the positive outlook? Using it as an example for someone that may be watching, but what's usually a positive outlook for you?
I think about my dog at home, Sugar. She is the light of my life, and she is as sweet as Sugar, so she is the thing that I always look forward to have me keep going.
Let's talk about the warning sign. I'm so distracted by sugar because now I'm really interested to see, what sugar looks like. But again, those warning signs, because we're wrapping up here, reiterate those warning signs for us.
Sleeping a lot more, being more irritable if in situations that you normally wouldn't be, loss of interest in things that you would enjoy, less energy, harder times concentrating, and sometimes suicidal ideation, or just simply feeling that the world is too overwhelming. Why am I here?
Okay, and the suicide hotline number is very important for a lot of people, 988. Of course, people can call that number and they're connected, with a licensed professional who can help them through that. But really talk about why that is, very important for a person that, could be experiencing SAD.
Suicidal ideation, it can become like what I call a little demon in your mind. It takes hold and it can grow and grow without you even realizing it. So once that starts, you want to nip it in the bud, get help as early as possible before it's too late. Losing a loved one or losing yourself to suicide is one of the hardest things that a person and their families can go through. So just trying to reach out for help early is one of the best things that you can do.
And I remember when 988 debuted, when I was a reporter, I remember how important and how much of a game changer it was for medical professionals and even law enforcement too, understanding how do we help people that are experiencing, mental health crises and things like that. And even to this day, I mean, thousands of calls a day, they field thousands of calls a day, and it certainly is a game changer for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So let's get your contact information again to let us know, if someone seriously is going through these things, how can they get in contact with you to get the help that they need?
Absolutely. They can reach out to what we call our behavioral health assessment team, our crisis team, Lifeline at 478-464-8108. You can also always look us up online. If you type in Piedmont Behavioral Health or Piedmont Psychiatry, those numbers will pop up as well, numbers that you can call at various sites across the state.
Okay, I mean, this is just the season, for the holidays, a lot of stress though. One of the best gifts for a lot of people is just recognizing that they may be a little different. How can we show up for our family members when we're gathered around the Christmas tree or whatever our respective celebrations are?
Trying to encourage them, reaching out and including them, even if they don't necessarily seem happy, seem like they want to participate, including them in those little things is probably one of the best things that you can do. Letting them know that they are loved, that they are appreciated, just being there for them is really important.
Yeah, no, that certainly is an important point because you just really never know, what a person's going through, and just having that conversation can certainly make a difference, and it honestly could save a life too, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and one more time, how can we reach you? Let's get that contact information. We're going to pop that information up on the screen so that people who need the help can get it.
You reach out to Piedmont-Macon Medical Center at 478-464-8108, or reach out online, just Google Piedmont-Macon Psychiatry, Piedmont-Macon Behavioral Health. Those numbers will pop up for you.
And there they are, connected with somebody who could help them, and you talked a lot about that inpatient program too,
Absolutely.
which, has been very successful for a lot of people as they go through that program. And maybe you could just briefly talk about what are some of the things, like activities that they're doing to go through this in that inpatient program?
Absolutely. So the average length of stay for our patients is around 5 to 7 days. And during that time, they see a psychiatrist daily, they see therapists daily, they talk with therapists about different medications, about coping skills, they go to activities therapy, kind of learning different things that they can do, things that they enjoy, finding the joy in things again. They learn about journaling, kind of reading puzzles, any of the above. Just different things that a person can do to try to get their life back on track and to find that one little hope of joy.
Well, Dr. Cotney, I do appreciate our conversation, and I learned a little bit more about seasonal affective disorder. Thank you so much for talking with us today, and thank you so much for being with us. We're back next time for Central Georgia Focus. Have a great day, everybody.